Last year, it certainly called him. He got me so mad. I'm gonna get called time to go. I told him. Where he was headed, I could see him.
They don't come knocking at our door anymore.
All right, it's 4:30. We'll get our study sessions right. First up tonight is Partridge Avenue Development Update, and that we will go through Troy Electric that minute. All right, so up there you have a schematic of a project that the HRA has been working on in conjunction with the United Way and Steele County. So this property, and in the bold there, was purchased by the city. Time flies by. Initially bought it for storm pond to address some of the drainage issues that were happening in Carriage Lane area there. We knew there was more there than what we needed, and we had intended that the remaining portion of that property would be developed in residential in some form or fashion at a later date. And so we're kind of at that point now. The pond has been constructed. It's been functioning well for that area. So we're looking at the rest of that area and how we might be able to utilize that. $300,000 to assist with providing some affordable single-family units. And those appropriations have some restrictions and some timelines attached to them, but they were actually written for a different piece of property, and that became not available anymore. So we were working with them on possible partnership on trying to utilize those funds to help with these lots. The lots on Partridge already have utilities and stub-ins all ready to go. Really the lots 1 through 6 would be the ones that would need some infrastructure to put in place. And we've got some engineers' estimates of what that would cost. We're probably in the $700,000 range for that cul-de-sac. All the utilities approached us about not to the level of actually the $700,000. So that's when we talked to the county. County has some affordable housing aid that needs to be put towards affordable housing. They had an application process. We put an application in to assist with this project for $200,000. So that's under consideration right now. And in fact, next Tuesday at the county work work session, there will be $8, that we were gonna, looking at 300, city 200, and county 200, to try to get the infrastructure put in for the 10 lots. Now, with this would be a program. Action Council on developing a plan on how to get families, probably going to be first-time home buyers, and getting a product, a house built kind of in the $250,000 to $300,000 range, and at a level that they can afford. So there might be some other programs to help with down payment assistance in these sort of cases, and looking at how the financing might work on each. We would probably be looking at this as contributing our affordable housing state aid dollars as part of the cost. It probably makes most sense for this to be a city, and then United Way for their $300,000, conditioned on the county participating their $200,000, so that we can fully pay back for the city project. And so as the program is being developed, that's going to be part of the package in all of this. This is a schematic drawing. There will be zoning approvals that would be needed for this. There will be public hearings for this project. Neighbors will be notified. We'll have public hearings. End of all of this, but I want to give you guys a heads up of where we're at and how the progress is coming along. At best, this would be a 2027 project if everything kind of lines up. But there's multiple agencies working together to try to make this happen, to get more lots developed. It does require, with the cost of everything, some assistance to get that. The concerns at the county level to gauge where they're at in the city.
Okay, any questions from council? Brent?
Troy, is it just a pretty long dead end street there? Or is that?
So this is a little misleading. This was what has been platted. So that street that's shown on there does not exist, or will it exist? Right in the middle of all of that is a storm pond. So what this is highlighting is anything else developed on the rest of that.
Ordinances?
They are today. So if they meet today, they will meet the ordinance requirements.
Another question. Drainage. We went in and dug some retention ponds with the city. Now, right to the west of this development, against city's judgment or recommendation, Carriage Lane went economical. They put in no storm drain, they put in no street lights, they didn't put any curb and gutter, so they had some problems there. Now, Carriage Lane, the next step further, in the back, they've got some drainage problems also, but I don't think any of the drain line is on. We don't have an easement. Now, will this project clean up some of that problem? Will it make it worse? Oh, and one other thing, does the 200,000 that we're kicking in, does that include the in-kind service when we're putting in utilities, or is that extra?
Well, any in-kind services as far as construction wise. So whatever the bid comes at, that's the price, to do it. We're looking at about a $700,000 price tag, and so, you know, our contribution to that would be the $200,000 that I mentioned. So, there are some engineering and some of this or another anyway, and so there is some upfront cost, which is part of that $200,000 in there. As far as Carriage Lane, so that was done as a private townhome project. So the streets are private, the street lights are private, it was all done privately, and we've had a number of townhome projects go that route just because it's less expensive on the front end, and you have lesser setbacks, and so you can get more units within a square footage than you can if there was a city street in there. That project was done and some of those avenues were taken to reduce the cost. The stormwater, you know, was not just a Carriage Home issue. It was a more of an area-wide issue, and there's, you know, kind of a stream that goes through there. And so when we purchased this, it was to address stormwater within the area, catching it before it gets to this development and runs through there. And so, you know, that has been effective in accomplishing that. And so, I don't know that there's any problems today other than like any other place in Owatonna. If we have heavy rains, our storm system is designed to handle a 10-year rain event. So if we have a larger event than that, we are going to see some overflows in different areas. So I think this is comparable to anywhere else in the community in the
daylight. I think that's been lot. If we change our ordinance and our lot size requirements, does that present an opportunity to potentially get more lots in here, or what's?
I don't think so. We don't have a lot of space to work with there, so even if our, and we're looking at single family homes here, so you're feet wide to handle a single family house. I think even if we down here, we're situated pretty well.
That's where we started.
There will probably be different contractors, and so there'll probably be different housing types. And you know, as most all other houses, you know, one level will probably be finished. Probably will be an unfinished basement. I don't say they're all going to be like that, but that's kind of the thought process, so that the homeowner would have opportunity to build equity by finishing off some of the other areas over time. Yes.
There's no guarantee then that we're building these more affordable homes.
Lots at a zero price tag, so that the house being built there can bring the cost down. That someone who's building and buying a house there doesn't turn around and sell it right away and capture that money that was used to help bring the cost down. So part of the program is we're trying to develop is that you can only gain so much equity in there. If you were to sell, you could homes, starter sort of homes for people to move or purchase their first house in Owatonna or move to Owatonna, build a life here, and be able to build some equity.
This is kind of a silly question, Troy. When we have a neighborhood,
Of that property, there will still be some green space there. It probably won't be designated as a park, but there will be some green space available in that area.
Just because they're starter homes, I would assume they would have. Okay, thank you.
Troy, the other lots, who owns, are there already houses on the other lots, or what's the status of those?
So the 4 lots on Partridge Avenue that are not highlighted in green have existing homes on them already. And then everything on the back side of those houses is the storm pond.
Okay. And we're selling the lots to United Way?
Yes, so that would be, the lots would be transferred to United Way, and they would be working with the contractors to build it.
Do we have an assessed value on each lot?
We do not at this point in time, no. So this is, like, they have no value until you put the infrastructure in. So we're all partnering together to get that infrastructure in and have that value there so that new houses can be constructed on it. So United Way is not getting anything, city's not getting anything as far as, so that they can have, you know, a more affordable house to purchase.
Okay.
Just a clarification, Kevin asked, are we selling these United Way? And you said, well, we're transferring.
Yeah, so it'll be under an agreement, it'll be, you know, all parties sign the agreement, it'll spell out what role the city has, what role the county has, what role United Way has. The actual ownership would be under United Way. And so there would be a transfer, like an actual transfer of the property. But we're all contributing to the project as a whole. And so I know that I would say that we're selling to them. We're doing this part, county's doing this part. United Way's part is to get the contractors to build the homes to be conveyed to the.
In the lots? That all may be part of what our share is?
Well, our share is the
I guess I'm just wondering if taxpayers are gonna get a payback on their money.
Well, the payback is we're adding and nothing for the community, really. So under this agreement with all parties is the end result would be we'd have 10 new houses with 10 families living in them, all paying taxes on houses that they can afford. So that's the idea.
Kind of to dovetail on Dan's question, so United Way wouldn't pay any property tax on them if we transferred it. The only time we get property tax is if someone starts to build on those lots. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yep, and, right, so, and again, we're developing all this so that we know all of this ahead of time. So we know that, you know, United Way, the $300,000 appropriation has a timeline to it. So it was 10 years from when it was appropriated to United Way. We're probably 3 years in, so we probably got 7 years to finish this out. So in the short term, while they're holding a lot, they're probably not paying taxes on it, just like it's not getting paid taxes so long as the city is hanging on to them. But once the house is built, so the community only benefits when the house is built and somebody moves. And that's why we want all this worked out. What the end product is going to be.
At this point?
Yeah, not at this point, no.
So, simple math, let's say they're worth $50,000 each, so it's $500,000. How do we get $500,000 back on those lots? Just on property taxes? Once they're built? Or is United Way paying us for those lots?
So it is $700,000 to put the infrastructure in, so in the end, the whole end product is we're gonna have 700 plus or minus into creating 10 lots in this, right? So we're contributing our, out of the 700,000, the county, if this all, every 1,000,
with where they're at right now, is it out of line that they would be worth 50,000 a lot right now?
well, when this is all done,
No, right now.
right now, no, because we don't have lots. Those 6 lots don't exist.
And a very lot with no services.
Right, it'd be crazy if we would.
Yeah, because we'll get it back in taxes, but
We're playing
I
along.
understand that. I'm just asking questions. Yeah,
According to all our surveys and comments we get on Thursday nights, housing is 1 or 2. So yes, we're subsidizing this, but it's a lot what the public wants. Whether this is too much, not enough, I don't know, but you gotta start someplace with housing.
what's the biggest hurdles going forward? I think the county will be on board, can't speak for them, we'll be on board.
Well, it's developing this program and getting the entities all in agreement to go ahead with it. So, and get an agreement that all parties can agree to and get it approved and signed, and then we'll go to bid and put it in place.
And the challenge is, what's the definition of affordable housing?
Well, that you can
Lumber's
ask
not cheap, wood's not cheap.
10 different people and you'll get 10 different answers.
Yeah.
So this is hitting something less than market value. Approvals and the agreement, we're hoping to have it done here by the end of the summer.
Okay. I have one last question. What needs to be done from the city?
Services to do this project.
Okay. Fire cost comparison, site selection review, and for that, I will turn it over to City Administrator Jen Tillman.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the attendance to tonight's study session. It is based on a lot of information that has been shared over the last few years. A lot about the site is how we came up thoroughly. Trying to hope that this is somewhat informal. We're fire with us, so hopefully we can So we got that going on, but I first wanted to just the first one was in the Steele County Times on April, probably like middle of April.
Can you talk in the microphone so everyone can hear?
You can't hear me, Dean?
Well, I'm challenged anyway,
Hello?
but I just want the audience to know what you're talking about.
Absolutely. I'll rearrange my desk here. So with that, the Steele County Times ran an article based on a letter from the SHPO office, middle of February, or middle of April. And in there was there's some information in there that came in to get some feedback on the article, on the letter. I have clarified with the reporter my cell phone number, so they have that going forward. The other information in the article is so based on the letter. I think I'd just like to talk about the letter a little bit. And that's that SHPO letter that was dated the 14th. I did put this on our study session website if people want to look at the letter or the EAW so people can reference the actual document. But the EAW petition, I gotta find my notes here. I guess before I go on that one, I do want to just note with the media. We've had a lot of media inquiries over this topic in the last month. The mayor and I and the chief and staff have been doing a lot of it. We've worked with KSTP, with Steele County Times, OPP, the People's Press, and so we have been, I think, pretty open and willing to about drop anything to take a media inquiry. we've given tours for the media. So we've done, I think, the letter that we received from the SHPO was in regards to the EAW, the Environmental Assessment Worksheet. So there's 3 components that SHPO had talked about in their letter. The EAW, we received a citizen's petition. From that, they went to the, I'm gonna give you some acronyms, you guys are gonna kill me here, but the Environmental Quality Board. So the EQB received a citizen's petition requesting us to do environmental assessment worksheet, which is known as the EAW. So with that email back to the city telling us that there was a petition, SHPO was included in that email. So they were aware of the request. From there, the EQB identified the city as the responsible government unit to oversee that EAW. That is known as all the rules under the EQB rules to review that petition. We had legal advice here when I'm doing it, but the EAW was required, wasn't required because of the size of our project. Like, we had a very small project in acreage compared to what one would be. There are other requirements for that was if we would disturb wetlands, public waterways, or floodplains, if we had roadway constructions. And so when we tested all of these, it came back that we weren't required to do an EAW worksheet. In March, the council rejected the EAW. And there was a resolution which really outlines a lot of it. Again, I posted that on our website or on our agenda so people can read through that agenda. It really walks it through very nicely. So that's the EAW to the SHPO's letter. They were included in the original. They knew about it. Because we didn't have a building, there was no role for SHPO to play, right? We didn't have a building. If we did one on this building, we'd have a building for SHPO to provide some input on. Next, they mentioned the police station, which is the proposed police station here on campus. And they also know the fire department. They're under the assumption in the letter that they sent us that we have a combined building. And so they note in the letter that we did not submit the fire department plans. And so that has been noted in the article, I believe, too, that we didn't share the fire department plans. Yeah.
When was the first time SHPO was made aware of the potential project on the campus?
January of 2026. And that was through our consultant.
Okay, thank you.
So they knew of the project.
Yeah.
We contacted their office. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for my ignorance, but can you explain what SHPO is for someone that's not, I'm not sure if our audience completely understands.
Yeah, good. Yeah, they're the statewide historical preservation office.
Okay.
So this campus and the downtown district and maybe one other area, our buildings are too. They hand it over to the state office to manage input. So it's handled locally. Typically, SHPO will get involved on these historic properties, but if we had state or federal funding, then they have more say. But they're they're a group that provides input and consultation. They don't have legal authority to tell us what we can do and what we can't do, but we want to, being good stewards of our property, have their input. We've worked with SHPO on plenty of projects. Kevin?
So they are not a regulation state board. SHPO. They can make they're a recommendation board, but they
don't have authority over our projects. We can inquire with them. They give us input. They give us very good input, but they don't hold legal solution to come to common ground.
I might just jump in here. We work with SHPO on Merrill Hall. We work with SHPO in this building. And I think there isn't anyone out there that can complain about how this turned out. And if so, stand up now. I don't think for $200,000-300,000 more to do all of their, keep this historical. Power, no government authority, there's direction. But if every project did what SHPO wants to do, you folks would have been on the hook for time. You have to weigh the needs and the wants, just like we're doing with the police and the fire. What's needs and wants? In their letter, if you'll notice, there's a lot of whereas, could be, might affect there that says, maybe this will happen, maybe that'll happen, you should do this. Don't. It's just like they wrote back about the fire hall. And they're afraid of what's gonna happen if we walk away. Here again, what does the taxpayers wanna do with that? Do the taxpayers wanna maintain that like they think it should be? It could be how much money would you spend on that? Maintaining the fire hall. To maintain this, I think we should give it away for $1. Private industry would say, well, I could never afford to sprinkle that or put in a tap room or make a hotel. But the government, the taxpayers, should do that. Done.
So you bring up many good points, Dan. One of them is we have worked with SHPO on this space here when we remodeled it in 2022-23. We did the addition. We've done the Art Center addition. We did Merrill Hall. We have really good working relationships. We follow the process. I can tell you that we don't always agree, the two agencies, but we always come to some solution of preserving the history, telling the history, and trying to make these government buildings workable, functional public buildings. We do need to meet building codes. They sometimes don't always care if we do, but they always have their points. So we try to find a compromise. And so I would say over the years that I've been involved with SHPO, we have done a very nice job of working together. Both agencies respect each other's roles, and we know our authority and their. We have a West Hills Commission too. A West Hills Commission has sat on all these projects. The space we're in right now, we have that voice, that expertise. When we did Merrill Hall, we used Ann Peterson and Nancy Valancourt to help us tell that story. And Merrill Hall, Nancy Valancourt and Jan sit on the police station task force to help get into a component to it. So with the letter that was sent out is no different than letters that we've received from SHPO before, saying, hey, we want you to do this, we need this, documents this. So it seemed like it was taken a little bit out of spin to try to make it look like we're not working together, or that we're trying to misrepresent the information. This is the process that we go through. Is Wold contacted SHPO in January. SHPO typically wants to have something to react to. So for that, they usually like to see plans at 30%, 60%, and 90% designed. Wold got SHPO plans in March, as they note in their letter, and it was probably around that 40-50% design completion, so they had something to react to. So we're doing the same plans or the process that we did here, or what we did on the council, or on the addition next door. So we're following the same process to that. I think SHPO we made the decision about 10 months ago to split facilities from one facility to two facilities. And I'm not sure why SHPO was still under the impression that we were still doing one building. And so is that the question that they're wondering about, why they didn't get the fire station? We didn't send the fire station plans to them because it's a new building. It's not within the scope of what SHPO's authority is in. And so it's not in the historic district. And so that's why we didn't send the fire plans to them. The building downtown is in the historic district, it is on the National Registry, but to your points, it's part of the reason why we need to move out is because it doesn't meet our current needs. So with that, I just wanted to keep reiterating that the city has a good relationship with SHPO. We've had good working relationships with them, we've gotten projects completed with them. Do we always see eye to eye? No, but do we get it done? We do.
So, in the article from Steele County Times, SHPO made the claim that they were first made aware of this project in April. That is inaccurate. Correct?
Correct. We have
They were made
documentation,
aware months ago.
yeah, we have documentation of back and forth between Wold and SHPO. When Wold was trying to ascertain, when do you want to see drawings, what quality do you want to see drawings, because at the time they were engaged, we didn't have building elevations, so that's a component of what they wanted to see, so they were able to confirm what they needed. So,
Nate?
Well, there was a time where they thought it was one facility, so they were aware of it before we split facilities. So,
Yeah,
does
absolutely.
that not demonstrate that they were aware of it well before we made the decision to separate them?
I can't speak for what they know and what they don't know. We make,
They were under the impression it was just one facility, and that came from somewhere prior.
that's how the letter reads, we're trying to figure construct now is what the primary project are.
There's some of this misinformation, both in the paper and on.
I didn't have a chance to respond to it, and so I did not have.
Don?
I just want to clarify, so the police department coming up here doesn't involve any buildings, it's strictly length. So they have no,
Yeah, we're not disturbing any existing structures.
people shouldn't care other than what are we gonna do with the existing fire building. That's right.
Correct, but there's no authority to prevent you from selling a building. If the city chooses to sell the building or to respond to.
Okay, so really, they're a recommendation board, if you will. They have no authority.
Probably the only thing they could do is maybe remove it from the registry. But at the end of the day, all that does is prevent you from pursuing federal funds.
And none of these projects are requiring state funding, federal funding. I know we had tried to go last year to get some funding.
Okay, any other questions on that? Otherwise, I'm gonna move on to the other comments. So,
We may come back to that.
topics is the site evaluations and just the cost of them. So, we had talked a little bit about the intro of this process here. So just developed some guiding principles as we went on this, started this journey. And there is, I believe, 6 of them in here, at least, the public safety facility guiding principles. Again, the council has adopted these, and they are just making sure that the health and well-being of our employees is addressed. There's having secure and welcoming facilities to the public, that we manage it finance responsibly in the community central area, and that we have adequate storage and maintenance. I came up with that one. So as we began this journey, began before I was here in 2019, we did our first facility assessment. And in there, ICS was involved. They came in and they did an assessment of the majority of our major core buildings. And in COVID hit, that plan kind of sat on the shelf. In 2022, the needs didn't go away, they back up. And on that steering committee, we had, and we went around to all the cities.
On the whole task force, oh yeah, the whole, not the.
Yeah. Structures and forward with some of our core essential buildings. And what came out of that was this council space was number one that was there. It was outdated and needed some upgrades. And so we completed the chambers and the addition that went with it. The next probably in 23, 24. And next was, that we were working on, is the police and fire. So we've been talking about this for several years, but we let the other two projects get completed and then had tackled the police and fire. So in 2023 was a few years, because we were working and chipping away on some of the work that was needed on some of these projects. We just wanted to get an updated facility assessment. So the facility assessment that was completed in 19 got updated in 23 with some of the CIP projects that had been completed over the few years. With that, we created, from the steering committee, we created two and have 3 different council members on it. Mr. Burbank, I believe, is on it. Don McCann, you're on that one?
Oh, the facility steering committee?
Steering committee. So on the task force became Dan Boke, Doug, and Mr. Burbank, I believe. So from there then, we had the task force, and then in addition to that, we had breakdowns into staff project teams. So we had one for police and one for fire. Because we really wanted this project to be led on needs, and we wanted the staff and the people to tell us what the needs were. And so that's where this information came from. And we've spent a little bit of extra time. We paused last summer. Didn't pan out, but we wanted to test it to make sure that we weren't missing the right site. Task force on here, we had council representative, we have staff, we had our consultants, ICS and RAP, and then underneath that we had the 2 user groups, police and fire. So in this one, we've had, I think sometimes we get accused of not being transparent and not having our information out there. We've had over 18 public meetings where we've discussed this in study sessions, made action items on it, had open houses, and so can we do better? Yes, of course. But we have been having it out there for the last 2 years in information that's been presented at this dais.
Once again, we hear the term transparency a lot. These meetings are public and open for put on their media sites. We've been doing this since 2019. If they don't think it's news, make it part of their news goal.
Correct, and I don't know that it wasn't in the newspapers. I mean, I know that we submitted news releases and information that barriers I'm trying to understand is, well, how do people want to be available with the content on it? So how do we tackle this, how we approach finding the right site? Again, we work with staff and the public safety experts to define those operational needs. A lot of that came from there is making sure that we had those response times, the safety, the equipment, space, and then also trying to do our community stewardship of making sure that we design it so it can be added on for the future. So this isn't today built for 50 years out, but it has the potential. 8 different facilities that had police and fire, and we learned a lot. I think we loaded up on a bus at least 3 or 4 different times with different people on the bus to go tour that. And it became pretty evident when we toured those how far our facilities were behind. And with that, we learned some of their best practices and some of the things that they wish they would have done. One of the things we heard, and Chief, you can speak to this probably, is we didn't walk into this project thinking we were going to do cover. So that's probably a future of realizing how you'll see at the end of today how we came up with the site. Conceptual layouts for each of these areas. Spent a lot of time looking at how it might work here and how it might not, and we'll go through. We worked right with the staff. We evaluated the existing facilities, identified the limitations. We've talked a lot about those. If it's police, it's the Sally Port, it's the victim room. To clean up after an event. They don't have adequate shower facilities. There's sleeping areas that we use for our paid on. Those dedicated training rooms and wellness spaces, mental health, PSD, all very important in both lines of duties. And then we need that space for being flexible, so as we grow, we can grow with those buildings. And we were asked to build a 50-plus year building, and so that's what we're trying to do here, is the one that can meet it. Our current fire hall, as everybody knows, is over 100 years. We maximize that really well. And we hear today from SHPO, if we remodel that, really again, we were really looking for centrally located land. We needed paid on call. They needed to come from the place of business or from the residents that are coming in. Again, we cover the whole city, and then the use we're trying to use to maximize the impact on the community. So it was trying to be where we could be as best cost conscious as possible by using city-owned land. And then making the best use of taxpayer dollars. Again, try to put that plan forward that saves the taxpayers the most money over the long haul. And then that plan has to be flexible and an opportunity to expand. So the central location, this map here. Chris, do you want to take this one, how the map is laid out?
Sure. So the dot in the middle of the map represents the LEC site. There were quite a few different studies done along with fire and police staff and city staff as we were evaluating. To response time. Even more important for the fact that you have people coming from their residence, their business, responding, and then going back out. So
that is going to come up and it's going to challenge this group at the dais later on in our process. So right now we were building the most cost-effective way to do it. And we'll talk about that in a bit.
I just want to make a comment that when we hear these things, sometimes we think it's kind of hypothetical, but not long ago, had they been 10 minutes, there would likely have been.
I did a little graph here just to try to help, because this is a lot of information to take in, because we did, if it was city-owned, if it met the centrally located, if there was space for police, if fire could get in there, room for growth, and then cost. So we'll get back to this one here, but this tries to summarize some of the sites that we looked at. It goes on for a few pages because we looked at a lot of sites. And this PowerPoint will be available on our website and in our agenda. And we'll go through each one of these with a little deeper dive, but it's just a summary of looking at which sites we went to and when. And again, we were trying to centrally located, keep the cost. I'll stop there. So I'll turn the site reviews over to Chris, if you don't mind, and run through those.
So the graph for the chart basically represents the images that we're going to go back through. you've seen these, we touched these up a little bit more so they're a little easier to understand and go through. But the northeast corner of 26th Street and 24th Avenue, that site was purchased some time ago with the mind that that would be a second station in the future. It's not centrally located, so it doesn't meet the criteria of putting the main fire station there. It also doesn't meet the criteria of keeping the police station centrally located, in the fact that it's on the perimeter of town and it creates issues with response times on the other side of town, even with patrols out. And that additional studies an hour later. It's going to be a glorified garage until your department. Yes.
Chris, it says their satellite station will not need to be considered until it's.
Yep.
Now, my question for you is, the new fire station is built, does that push that back to beyond 30,000 population?
Potentially, because all of the gear will basically be under one roof now. In the dorms, there are additional dorm spaces, and the way the dorms are its limits, but yes, by all means. A satellite station may not come into play if the response times are able to stay the time limits that you're looking for. This really comes into play whether it's this location or a location east of town, of how town grows. You know, this was a guess, let's call it at the time, smart thinking, smart planning, but in the end scheme, it's something you're gonna have to continue to evaluate when you get to that threshold. And like I said, 30,000 was a general rule. Again, it's just a general rule, would need to be studied again in the future at a certain point.
Last time, you know, that affects insurance rates.
Yeah, so the station, the current station, your facilities are rated on what's called the ISO. And what that does is insurance companies use that to set their rates. It basically is a scoring system to tell, among other things, but they take that all into account, and your house within 3 minutes, you might see a better rate. Your score is anticipated to go up, but it's not going to go up significantly, nor would it drop significantly based on a few things. The training tower, some of the training space, and added apparatus space, I think, are going to help that score go up. But in the scheme of things, it's not going to go greatly up as if you were, let's say you were a fully on-call department, your score would jump probably pretty significantly because you would be going to a full-time station as well. So the original LEC site, option one, we looked at purchasing the block, or what would mean to purchase houses on the block. On the north, this again is when we were looking at a joint facility. This was a tight site for a joint facility and probably would mean little to no future growth capability. And the high cost of property and time to acquire property would take into account here. The south block across the way, again, you own some property over here currently. Again, same criteria here came into play. We looked at a variation of that if we cut the block in half essentially and created an area for both police and fire. Again, it's extremely tight when we're done, and future growth would require purchasing houses, additional property.
Chris, question for you.
Yeah.
So on that, can you go back a slide?
Yep.
So it says additional cost is about $2 million.
Correct.
But if the facilities were built as one facility, is there a cost savings in that?
This is, the cost there is property alone. That's all that costs. There would be no savings in property. And property cost starts there. That's assuming you get it at a fairly low cost.
But then, but would we see a savings in the total cost of the facilities?
Yes, and you'll see that in the future slide. We have that comparison. Combined north and south, again, this is the option that the current fire department is going to utilize. This worked out very well for the fire department and allows for future growth of the fire department with view bays to the north on this site. The existing fire station block, there's a few things to note here. One, you'd have to acquire some property to the west. If you do that, you still need to add some apparatus bays, so now you've kind of split your apparatus bays on two sides of a building, which we would have to look at some very creative ways to make sure firefighters know exactly which direction they need to go to get to which equipment. Another limiting factor of this site is the building to the south and the alley width prevent the larger equipment from actually pulling through the drive-through bays as they were built. So the ladder truck and the two engines actually back in when they come back from calls, as you often see when they're coming back. That would not change if we went to the west on this site as well. Because of that, we looked at this very early on and scrapped looking at it further at the time. The former Semstone site, so the blue areas are property you currently own. The gray areas are properties that are owned by others. The white, turning that back over to usable property. The building would fit here, specifically because you only end up with a little bit over, is that it doesn't have frontage along the main road up there, which you would want if you were going to put police here.
That's North Street?
Correct, correct, yep. The two now, around, no value in going up after that corner if you could get the other corner potentially. The yellow and the red on there, I think 2 times in recent memory where about a foot of water existed in the main yard of the Semstone site. Not something we could alleviate if we needed to, but something just to be aware of. I believe staff came up with the idea looking at a city block that was near downtown. This one happens to be across from OPU. As you can see, a number of houses would need to be purchased. This one also has an issue that the elevation falls from top to bottom pretty severely. So trying to mitigate that with a building would need, you'd have to work that out, and ultimately fire is the one that would fit here. Police would not fit with fire. The big box building, when we were originally looking at this, the parcel to the north was still available, and during our evaluation, that parcel was developed. So this one came off the list pretty fast as well. Steele County owned property, the Health and Human Services building here in the corner, and then the vacant lot next to the administration building. We looked at those. They actually are a little tighter than they look. We could police on the forehead. I'll get to that in future slides, but it is again a reason why we split the buildings into two and two sites. And then we've got various options at West Hills campus. So we looked at the west side of West Hills. This one ultimately would require talking to the county and purchasing the Health and Human Services building in order to get enough acreage there to make police work. Police likely would not be an underground structure here. It would probably be on grade, which really, the north portion there next to the former hospital. The green area, again, is a building that the city has a 99-year lease with. Not that that couldn't be moved, but the fact that they built a building on an agreed upon lease, the city would likely need to replace the structure for them, which would add to costs, which is not reflected in the 4.15 million. That's for the 4 black structures, the storage buildings, and the carpenter's shop. That the county would no longer, the city would no longer have, and actually use quite a bit and would need to replace square footage somewhere. We looked at the front and then actually trying to figure out a way to maybe incorporate the northeast corner of the site that you own property on as well. Again, this one was not desirable because it blocks view of City Hall potentially and building on the front lawn. The site that we're currently looking at for police, we originally looked at finishing out the corner of the site, so those properties there had a pretty large price tag that council to the north and to the west, a joint facility or just police, which police is what we're currently locating in that corner. Downtown site near the grain elevator. We looked at this ultimately with the property that was being talked about. It's too small even for fire. The proximity to railroad tracks, much like the Sandstone site, would make it less desirable as well, just due to any potential derailment in town if there's a chemical car. You're basically taking out public safety that would need to respond to it to begin with. The former high school site, we had some very, very initial conversations when this process started very early, just looking at potentially locating, whether it be fire or police on this site, but the site areas that are available for building are smaller than desirable for police, and ultimately the district was not interested in pursuing this further. Possibly in the future for a community center, but not for public safety. Pillsbury College site, we had some initial conversations early on. There were 2 sites identified. Site number 1 was the one that was probably investigated the most. Both sites have about the same acreage and do work for a joint facility. But ultimately, those conversations fell through, and we had to circle back to look at West Hills and other properties. Correct. This site is actually, I believe, portions of it or all of it are on the historic registry. The Bridge Street location, the temporary police building site. So I believe this came up during the open house. So a couple questions as to why not locate here. Well, the current building is only 13,000 square feet, so it's significantly undersized for what the police actually have right now. Additionally, the acreage is only 1.65 acres. We'd really need to buy out the west half of the block, and so that one, we align with the intersection there for safe exit for police vehicles, but also that we have enough room, whether it be tuck under garage or surface garage. This one came through, I believe, an email to the city, Leo Rudolph Nature Preserve. And actually it can't be used for this because it was signed into law and given to the city for the use as a park only. When it ceases to be a park, it has to be sold back to the state at $1. It actually has quite a few terrain and water issues as well. We looked at Gainey Park again. I think a staff member came up with the idea of finding this location. Due to the triangular nature of the site, it just doesn't work. It's too small for police. Would not work for fire. And those were the sites that we evaluated.
I can go back to, so this is our police station area, but I just want to make sure we note that we started this journey with one facility that would have some common space. And when we were looking here at West Hills and trying to figure out if it could fit up here and do both, we could. But our past fire chief really started bringing up that response time and the ISO rating of what that would mean. And it became clear that by putting the fire department up here, we could save money by doing a joint facility. But what would happen is we would add 3 or 4 or 5 minutes to those calls. And as somebody noted earlier, that can be a difference maker. And our council had to make a hard decision, right? Add money to the project by splitting it, or take away life safety. And ultimately, the council had given us direction last summer and saying, we can't put money over that. And said, split the buildings And that's why we decided to use the current law enforcement center site, because it puts the fire department operations centrally located. So trying to make this all work is why we acquired the school property, because for the law enforcement center to go down, we needed a place for it to go. We wouldn't be building buildings totally together, but they'd be in simultaneously happening to get probably the best bidding to it. But if we delay it, it just adds more money to the budget. And so that was why we were trying to start with one building, because we thought that was the right thing to do. And in exploring it and doing our due diligence, we realized that it wasn't worth the cost to somebody's life safety on it. So that's why we went to 2 sites. So the fire station at the current law enforcement center, I mean, it says it right there, we talked about it plenty. The police station at West Hills is because we obviously need a modern facility, improves the layout, security of it, city-owned land, it works on the site up here, it meets our needs. And you know, this is core essential services, and you all know, right? This doesn't get any more essential duties or responsibility is what we have, is to provide these buildings to our staff so they can have the resources and the tools to do their job, so they can take care of the community. And so we owe it to our police officers and our fire departments to provide those facilities to be able to do that. We think we have provided a reasonable and the cost-effective plan out there, using city-owned resources, not buying any additional, meeting the needs of what we have today, of what it is, and doing it in a timeline that meets the needs and takes care of it. So I think with that, I think we have maybe a couple more slides here to go through, but I'm more than happy to answer some of the questions too. You know, just the West Hills story, I think we've talked a little bit about that. The city bought this in 1974. They had purchased it as a essential service for government purposes, right? I think we've been pretty good stewards of I call it the Hill, but we've been pretty good stewards of West Hills campus, investing probably millions of dollars into the care and there. But we do need to run government services, and so we do our best with trying to balance historical buildings with operational needs. I think we do a pretty good job of it. Earlier on, of what the role is of the SHPO, what's the role of city, where the authority lies, and making the right investment. Maybe I'll turn this back to you, Chris.
No problem. So to your question earlier about costs, this is a summary of previous presentations that we've given the council, and partly led to the discussion and ultimate decision to break the buildings apart. So a new joint facility at the time of that decision was $54 million. You do benefit from less square footage because you can utilize some of the same functions, such as the workout room, some other areas. It's not a pure sharing because CJIS requirements in the police station that they have to observe, so there are firefighters that are not going to be able to go to certain parts of the building. And then likewise, you're not going to want your police department going into the dorms of the firefighters. So it wasn't a pure savings in that regard. If you break the buildings out separately, the new police station's about $35.5 million, new fire station's about $26 million. Keep in mind, these are all project costs, so that's construction plus soft costs, which are, it's the permitting, it's the soil boring survey, it's the design costs, the management and oversight during construction. We did look in that process at remodeling the facilities, so like there are comparisons here across the board, so remodeling in addition to LAC with fire, just because of all the work that needs to be done to the existing LAC and the way that it wasn't built originally as a police station, and there's quite a bit of work to make it marry into another building along with the additions. You're sitting at about $52.5 million. Remodel in addition to the LAC was at $29 million. Again, that would take out the parking lot in the back and essentially create covered parking, some additional evidence storage, and I believe holding was going to go back out there so that we could get portions of the inside of the building to create better staff areas. so that they could function with future growth as well. The percentage on the side is basically the percentage of that cost to build new, just to keep that in mind. Remodel the fire station, again, you're landlocked here, so you can't get everything you want. You basically just be improving staff spaces. We get some decontamination aspects into the facility. We get the dorms remodeled so that they actually function the way a modern dorm should function, and that firefighters aren't sharing rooms just out of necessity based on the amount of rooms and the spaces they have. Would also address some other training and equipment needs that the current facility has, but it would not address any additional apparatus space. So you'd still be storing trailers over at Public Works and other spaces because there just is no physical limitation. And in a remodel, you may actually be reducing down another bay just to make some of this other stuff work because we are limited inside the building square footage. Also important to note, these costs do not include land costs. So any of the land that we require, that would be on top of these costs. And again, those costs were probably entry level. They potentially could go higher depending on how land negotiations go. But something to keep in mind, 60% rule, when you start approaching 60% cost of new, it's really time to take a pause and take a look. Does it make sense? That doesn't mean that you can't remodel the structure, or it doesn't make sense to remodel the structure. It's just being prudent with available dollars that take the time to take a look at that. Does it really make sense to invest all this money in a building that necessarily wasn't built for that purpose originally?
Chris, question for you.
Yeah.
So earlier you mentioned that the new facilities were designed for a fixed year life. When you remodel a building, what does that mean as far as life? Does it add 50 years to that building? Is it less than that?
Well, so your existing fire station, a portion of it dates back to 1906. So as long as that's, you're reinvesting in it. Does it get you 50 years? I would say no, specifically at fire, because you're already limited. You're either looking at building that second station and going to a full-time fire department, because that's really going to be your only relief valve there to address your equipment needs.
We got asked a lot of times, like, so what if you go 49.9, right? Give me that building at that price, or others have said, reduce the cost. And we just wanted to kind of give an idea of what some of those significant trade-offs would be, is what would happen if we did reduce that. I think that's a fair question to ask. And so we wanted to give some feedback on what that could potentially look like. I think, again, we were basing this off of need, not want, so we're not building any Taj Mahal, as we sometimes hear. This is really just based on what staff has provided us of what we need and trying to set it up so it could be used going into the future. But Chris, do you want to go through these areas of what that would look like?
Yep, so we have looked at what that means. Ultimately, you're reducing square footage of the facility. There isn't a lot of growth built into the current facility because I would say both departments have done a great job of really beating up what the needs are, what the future needs are, and again, it's always a crystal ball. No one has one in terms of what the police. But smaller facilities would mean, for instance, the situation you're in right now where you're storing equipment in other garages and you have to add to your response time to go get those when they're needed. Less room for modern equipment and vehicles, that ties to that. Fewer dedicated spaces for critical functions. You're reducing some of the spaces and you could do other areas, but again, you're not shaving out a lot of square footage. Probably at police, the biggest one would be taking away the indoor garage. But then you're looking at a surface lot that you got to figure out a way to secure so that the vehicles are safe. The biggest thing that people don't realize with today's world is that those vehicle environments need to stay at a certain temperature to ideally the drug kits, the Having a garage or delaying key equipment, nothing's as cheap as it is today in the construction world, unfortunately. And you can always add on in the future, but you're gonna add plus that inflation cost onto that. And then less efficient layouts and site design. As much as we try to tighten that down, you start to lose some of the efficiencies of the plan that staff have worked so hard to make work right now.
Steve, were you gonna say something? Oh, okay. So this is, have plans that have been done and completed to that construction, and it didn't authorize, the project, to move forward. So with that, and then, if people wanna learn more about that, we're hopefully, I would welcome any questions from you or anything that you are hearing out there so we can answer that. We are live streaming this, we are recording it, because we really do want people to be able to.
A few questions. How many years have you worked with City of Old Town? 31 years. Thank you for your service, first off. So, I received an email a few weeks ago that we need to right size it. We need to right size the police. It's not right. We need to right size it.
Yes, it is sized right, but it's all.
Charles Court, how many years you worked for the City of Old Town?
2007, working on my 20th year.
20th year. Thank you for your service.
What Chief Wendell said is right
Let me
side.
put to the microphone so the folks can hear it on. I know you love this. Yeah, I know.
I'm not gonna ask you to sing.
That was the right size, absolutely. This building gives us the ability to grow as a fire department. Chris mentioned the possibility of a full-time department in the future if our city continues to grow. Absolutely, this gives us our ability to not only continue the training we do, but take everything out of the city that's lived its life for the city of Fire. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Of course.
Only me. I think I'd like to start by going on and how this was gonna happen. I was assured on multiple. It was 61 million, and that's it. There's no give and take. That's not how it should be. I don't believe that our taxpayers can afford 65 million. Our citizens can afford this. And I apologize for getting this without some give and some take. Shoot, we blew by that in a heartbeat. Chief Mundale in the last meeting almost was apologizing. My eyes closed, was led down a bit of a primrose path to get to this point. I don't think this is something that's doable for the constituents that I represent. And I just speak for one person. Whether it be 55-45 win or lose, or 51-49 win or lose, I don't want that. I want something that our city can be proud of. Look what we did. And I think we can do something that would fire and police can get by. Maybe not this big. Maybe there's some things we. I don't like that. So I want to build something that can get consensus of opinion. I think I was quoted one time as saying, "What's the magic number?" And by the way, my granddaughter's getting confirmed this weekend out of town, so I will not be there. If you will, come Saturday morning and bring your ideas. Does 20 million sound good to you? Does 15 million? Does do nothing? We don't care about our police and fire? Do we want to build police and fire, but then eliminate something else? Come, what should we eliminate? Should we eliminate this fall, I believe it is? Then what should we eliminate? If you, bottom line is, we have to do something. These folks cannot be first responders and have our backs in the facilities that they're in. We have to do something, folks. But help us. Come and help us. Let's get after it. But let's get after something that we're all proud of, that we can all say we contributed. You know, nothing is. Here's what I think we should do. You know, to do that, you may have to get online and look at the budget, see what we spend on this and that and the other thing. It'll take some time on your guys' part to really come up with some suggestions. We went through an awful lot tonight and eliminated a lot of sites that people keep asking me, oh, what about this, what about that? We've looked at them all. We've done a lot of stuff. So please help us. Don't just be negative and complain. You know, when you get back to the old song, geez, our streets are terrible. Engineer Murphy's in the back, and he told me what we spend a year on streets. Sure, we could spend more. What do you want to take out? You want to increase levy? Help us. What do you want to take out? If you want every street in town done, let's cut something out, because we can't keep raising the taxes. You've told us that. But please help us. Saturday morning is your first opportunity to come and greet the council at the gaming room in the library. Thank you.
Nick?
Was put out online regarding ICS, specifically with some malfeasance with a Shakopee superintendent and ICS. Can you comment on what happened with that situation, both legally and professionally?
Sure can, yep. Former employee was involved. He violated ICS's code of conduct and was let go. But in the course of the investigation of the former superintendent Shakopee, we were actually an expert witness for the FBI in doing that. And I do have a statement from the U.S. Attorney's Office that can speak to that. So the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Minnesota, in parentheses, the office sought information from ICS Consulting related to Rod Thompson, former Shakopee Schools superintendent, that preceded ICS Consulting's merger with Building Systems Holding. ICS Consulting provided for targets of the Rod Thompson.
Already shift some funding towards police and fire, where we take that from. And I will also say, while I've had my reservations with SHPO, because they do make recommendations and they can make the project very expensive. You know, we do, if the building is up here, we do want to make sure that it fits within the character of this campus. But I will say my enthusiasm for this campus, for that facility, is lower than it was. And so, have there been any other sites that have become viable options since our initial review of site locations? Because I would be very curious to know, just from the public, if that's as big a sticking point as the cost, because yes, it is terribly expensive. Yeah.
Just to answer your question, Nate, I think through this whole process, even open houses, people would say, hey, how about Bridge Street, or how about Leo Rudolph? And so we were open to keep exploring. We still are. We just need that 5-acre tract of land that's centrally located. It's not easy to find that kind of space that's available at a price tag similar to what the price tag is over here at West Hills, right? So that only adds more to the project if we would be purchasing something. We continue to look at all of our sites, even that we've listed here. Is there some way to do it to make a different site look criteria for selecting a site? But open.
Yeah, we business downtown, commerce memories on where he's going to be. It's and you know, I just found it ironic that
Bay for the fire is not optional. They need to have their equipment when they need it. I've had a couple people tell me that every time you guys build a building, it costs way more than it's supposed to cost. And I find this interesting. You know, when the last time the city of Owatonna purchased land, planned a building, built the building and christened the building 1906, the current fire hall. Done a lot of additions, we've got a lot of old buildings that we've acquired, but we haven't built anything. So, we did just finish a $70 million wastewater expansion though, which is pretty important as well. So, just a few comments.
I'll make a comment.
Yes.
I would concur with Dan, May 9th at the library, be there, 9 to 11. Dan might not be there, but the rest of us will try and make it. You know, having sat up here and listened to people come up and during the public comment related to this, I don't think I heard anybody go, I don't support the police and fire department, but I support the fire department, police department, but I mean, at some point in time, those butts gotta be taken care of. I talked to a previous city council person and many times. And then there's somebody that I respect a lot, made a comment, said, if not now, when? When is gonna cost a lot more than now. I think we looked at, and again, I wasn't involved in the actual task force, when's the like within to be in substandard facilities. Would anyone in this room want to work in a building that potentially could make you sick? We don't want that for our people. I mean, they are dedicated people that run into the fire. They run into when there's a shooting. Hey, let's vote on it. Let's see where the people want to go. That's a big nut too. And what to see some of those buildings. Service are putting their lives in danger every time they go to do, whether it's a traffic stop or run to a house fire. Let's do it right. Now, I've been in the construction industry for 30 years, and I've heard this value engineering and right sizing. Let me tell you, the only thing I ever saw come out of that is cheaper products. And sometimes cheaper doesn't work out very well. So again, that's my comment. I'd like to see us go forward with this. I'd like to see the public vote, see where everybody lands on. And if, you know, I see someone shaking their head, you don't want to do a public vote? Okay, reverse referendum said we want this, but we don't want them to get sick or injured, and if we've got hazardous materials they're dealing with, and someone ends up having an illness from it, that's not acceptable. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'll just say thanks, Jenna, for arranging to do this today. I mean, over the last 5-6 years, I mean, this back about history, how we got to the point we are today. So it's great information for the community to see it. It'll be on our website for them to view it when they want. And I echo the comments from those members on this project. So.
I guess I just asked if Chief has anything or Fire has anything, otherwise I think we can wrap it up. Our intent was to have a good discussion, I think we had that, and so if there's anything more, we can go with that. Nothing there. We do have one other we could turn on with Fire, maybe we could take a 5-minute break to give us a transition.
Dan Bolger break.
I knew I'd get you to say yes sooner.
What did they say about West Hills? I have the 5 pages of the Minnesota statutes that they're breaking.
Stick around. Public comment happens at the end of city council.
Well, they're breaking all of these Minnesota statutes that are in this letter.
Yep.
Would you like to read it?
Oh, I have. I'm aware. I can cite them.
I highlighted.
I'm gonna go out and get an interview.
She is a pretty good talker. I told Denise when Wookie got done, I should have
What?
When Wookie got done talking, I should have
I could, I got a little late.
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah. Yeah, back and forth. Yeah. That's good. There you go, you got something to watch now. Yeah. Yeah, well, it really starts now, so it's good.
Is that off? I better watch what I say, huh?
It's only a 5-minute break, then they were gonna come back and talk fire, remember?
Even going by. But November 18th study session, it was already in November, it was 2 separate.
Sure.
Yeah, so there's no 2 slides first and 1
Was that a study
facility.
session, or was that,
That was a study session.
or was that West Hills?
That wasn't West Hills Commission, that was a study session. I pulled up the PDF.
How are you doing?
Really
If
good.
they OFD vacated, the current building that they're in, it strips it from the National Historic Register and it will affect
Maybe,
also the district.
maybe.
Owns it. What the county doesn't own it.
Yeah, that's why I was saying that the school district is.
This is still going.
But haven't they said that for a while? And they're not gonna do it.
No, that's in plans also.
The community center is currently with the state legislature. They have until May 18th to approve or deny that. And then once, if they should approve it by May 18th, it would go to a vote on, in November for us to vote on.
The half percent sales tax increase.
Yep.
So what happens if
No.
we deny it?
No, it's not stupid.
It's not stupid, it's an essential part of it. Brings that to the floor.
They put it back in the public hand. Talk to. Were you gonna go talk to Renee?
Yeah, she dispatched out that way.
Might as well.
Yeah.
See if she has.
Yeah.
I mean, you all are more than welcome to too. I don't think you can stand them.
Yeah, I know, I don't wanna. think of this meeting? Did you think it was better, more open, or no?
Stick around for the city council meeting and you'll find out.
Yep.
Really?
Yep. Since they do public comment.
That's when the public comment gets to happen. Oh, okay. I wondered why they didn't let somebody stand up and
Do it. See what happens.
because we live on Partridge. Up the hill. And we're in a so what they're talking about has, tremendous impact.
So that plan actually was to develop all of Kruger Drive, and I fought that, Kruger Drive. That's the name of the imaginary road.
Oh, okay.
Half that field is underwater, half the summer.
Oh, yeah. We call it Partridge Pond.
But it's supposed to be originally field land where you could plant.
Oh, yeah, and there's a farmer that leases the land from Tom Partridge. They lease it, and last year it was corn. This year, I don't know.
President of the Oklahoma Firefighter Relief Association.
Yeah.
What the Relief Association does is we offer benefits to firefighters and their families. It does a little bit of background information as it relates to the Fire Relief Association. We're going to go over the Board of Trustees and the executive officials in the state. A little general fund overview, how it's made up, along with our special fund overview. And then the benefit levels as they relate to the municipal contribution level and the level of our Relief Association as it stands today. I have a couple slides on assets and liabilities related to the percent funded of our accounts. Minimum, so 10 years of service, you earn a 10 or a 6% pension payout. At 20 years, you're fully vested, so it's considered 100% payout. So basically, from year 10 to 20, you get a 4% step every year. Less than 10, there's no retirement benefit with that. We offer a retirement recognition, including a party for our members and their guests. We offer a blues party for the winter time. We kind of get together and keep the group tight. We also offer a local support for nonprofits. We do a yearly giving. So the group comes up with an idea for another local nonprofit that we have everybody in the community that kind of plays a role in this service. And our current membership includes 30 firefighters, both paid on call and full-time. Fills that role too. This group meets whenever there's a special meeting needed or whenever so our general donations or wills or whatnot. Right now, so I can talk about how that could be our safeguard down the road in case we'd ever need city contribution. So like I said, any money above the fund, and then the potential of having it invested with our partners at Parliament Night. And I just want to touch on fundraising and investing. It's been a huge factor to having this fund grow. There was a time, I know Tyler, our treasurer a while back, so there was the time this fund was broke. And I'll show you in a few slides coming up here that a lot of work has been done on the backs of firefighters and past and present to fundraise and raise money and invest our money, and then to offer a pension for our members. Special fund is comprised of transfers from the general fund, fire state aid money, and fire supplemental aid money. So fire state aid, in the grand scheme, roughly around 5.5 million salaries for
Slide.
almost 131 years. Contributions, it's all right, so benefit level. Our current benefit level, you get a 4% increase, so at 20 years, you receive the $16,500 per year of service, times your years of service. In 2021, so our percent, kind of how we got here, the benefit levels were always the same as the municipal contribution level and our Relief Association level. In 2021, we took a pretty large increase because our percent funded was so far overfunded. We were 170% funded. we thought we were kind of doing a disservice to our members by having that much, money in our account but not paying out the members. So we went out on our own, what we called it, took a $4,500 increase, $2,000 increase towards our municipal contribution. Funded, ever drops below, roughly it's about 85 to 87% funded. That's when municipal contribution would kick in. It hasn't happened for a while. I got a few slides here. I think this one shows you when. City contribution liabilities. What that means is we have enough to pay out all of our liabilities. So every year of service, for every firefighter, no matter if they have 1 year of service or of their retirement. So,
Good question for you.
go ahead, Dave.
Give me a number on what the guy doing based on those numbers, which are probably going to change. You know, what would a 20-year guy be looking at when he pulls it in?
20 years. Correct. Yeah. When you turn 55, yep, we have until 55.
You can't draw it out prior to 55. Okay. And that's in addition to your regular pension.
If you get a pension, so not everyone gets a pension, paid on call firefighters don't get any, there's no retirement associated with being a paid on call firefighter.
Nothing prorated for paid on call.
No, it's the same exact thing. Yeah.
Paying cash.
And the last one we had, like I said before, and the last time being in 2012. Hand in hand, all the way up until 2020 or so, 2021, where we went from 12,050. Like I said, we were majorly overfunded. We had 170% roughly funded in our account, and we just didn't feel like it was right to hold that back from our members and not doing a realistic pension. So we changed our bylaws. I should add too, maybe back in 70s or 80s, it had to be roughly 90% funded. In the early 2000s, it went to 100% to 110% funded. And then in 2020, when we took the big increase, we jumped up our bylaws to 120% funded. So what that means is we can't take an increase if our funds are below 120%. And we can't take an increase above the state maximum. So I think it was 23, the state maximum. So you can see we're kind of trying to play catch up here since 2021. In recent years, we've been taking $1,000 increases to try to catch up to our lead association amount. We've been taking increases as well, so the gap just kind of keeps spreading. So here's a quick overview back to 78. It's the latest information we have. Our assets, our liabilities, the percent funded, like I was talking, what the pension amount was for that year, any city contribution that was needed, and then the far right side there's pension payouts for that year. So like I said, like 1982 and that per our bylaws, they need to be 87% funded before they can take an increase. So for a few years there's no need to take an increase for 90, 91, 92. After that, once they got above the percent funded, they could take an increase. It dropped down almost 60%. They say roughly 2 years is how long it takes for a dip to happen, and then after that would be required for city contribution. Here's another slide here from 05 down to 21. We made some traction here with our amounts of assets. Good investment kickbacks, I guess you could call it. And just a lot of work done by our members. So you can see there everybody knows that happened in 2008. So like I said, 2 years later in 2010, 11, and 12 is when we need a little bit of city contribution to help offset our percent funded. And at that time too, you can see it jumped from about 100% funded to 110, and then a very larger increase down in 2020. We increased that by again to 120% funded. And then last year, here's the last 4 years or so, kind of how we got here, our assets on the left side over liabilities, percent funded. So like you say, let's just say 2023, we're 125% funded. End of the year, we took it down to 120%, so we're allowed a $700 increase per year service. Same thing in 24, we're about 4% overfunded, took it down to 120, which allows a $450 increase to our pension. Does that kind of make sense, the percent funded percentages? Okay. So like I said, now the state maximum is $20,000. We're at 120% funded. This was the end of last year, 4.4 million roughly. We just had a meeting last night. I can tell you. And just in closing, I just want to say that the Relief Association is a very strong fund. Like I said, built on the backs of current and past members, and done a really good job with getting this thing up and growing. There's a good investment group, Department Bank. They do a really good job of making sure we're in the right investment groups. In case we ever need city contribution or municipal contribution, it's a sign that we drop to that 85 to 87%. Never want city contribution, but they always appreciate it. So any other questions from the group?
You guys, excuse me, you guys are doing. Five, after being promised, never go below 3% a year. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many Monday nights a week do you drill?
We drill twice a month.
Monday nights a week.
Yeah.
One Monday
One
a
Monday
week.
night
Yeah.
per week, yeah, we do
Well,
twice a month.
That's what I meant, a month,
Yeah, we do twice a month, second and fourth Monday of every month.
all year long.
Yes, sir. Yep. Any other questions?
Questions?
From the group?
So today was just an information, this will be on our council agenda, coming up at an upcoming meeting, just to, for the requests that they have, so.
Perfect, all right.
We should update the request. Thank you guys.
Thanks for your interest.
Last city council meeting that was in meeting in Fair Board, I believe it's the Fair Board, has taken over the Smoking and Steel. They're creating a big event out there. One of their events are working with United Way, and one of their ways to make money out there is they're gonna have with our noise 30, the information I got, they're going to use the showmobile. It's going to be set up so it's actually pushes the music will carry to the south, not to the north. So it's not going to have as much impact on residential. And so just to give you a heads up that is potentially going to be on the agenda should paperwork in. So.
Oh, Mr. President.
Yes.
I just clarify that. So the Fair Board or Egg Society did get an event permit for their event. As part of that event permit, they are being asked to pay a fee to have the noise ordinance because they have noise occurring after 10 p.m. So
what we're looking to do is waive that fee for that extra half hour.
correct, but we approved their event permit at our previous meeting last month, so, because of the nature of it. 10:30.
And that's what will come before us in May, because we can't vote on it, it's not on the agenda tonight.
You voted on that permit at our last meeting.
Correct, but we didn't, the waiving of the fee would need a motion by the council. Correct?
Yeah, because it falls within our fee schedule, and because I checked with Jeanette, and she said a Fair Board is exempt to the noise, because I was wondering why, but because this is not the fair week, that's why they're being noise ordinance fees, because it's after hours, and it falls within that criteria. So if we want to waive the fee and issue a waive fever to it, we would need to bring it to we can do it on the March 19th too, but I'm sorry, the May 19th, sorry. So we could waive it there, just as an agenda item that is part of that, waiving the fee if you choose to do that.
That sound good?
And then we'll put on the Fair Board stuff.
Okay, with that, we do have about 5 minutes. Is there any updates from your boards or commissions that you are a part of?
Tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
bee friendly?
Be friendly.
Yeah. Councilman McCann and Boki and myself attended the park board meeting last night and got a very nice presentation from the Bee Friendly group. Lots of good information, stuff to think about, and I don't know when that comes to us as far as what we do with that, but it was a good presentation. Park board does a great job.
Good to the environment. Too, and so it's hard to please everybody, but we do our best with using chemicals that are probably less harm to the environment. I know our golf course takes that approach, and so does our park.
Right. If I can add just one comment that I think we talked about in the park board, mentioned it too, you know, what is the cost structure of the chemicals we're using, things like that. You know, Eric Anderson just said, hey, there's really no additional cost for our people because they're not doing overtime, they're doing normal time. But the question was asked, what are the costs of the chemicals? That we use? So, and I think we were talking about, since we're going through the budgeting process, we could probably.
Sure, there's a line item in there for chemicals, right? Could be turf chemicals, could be painting, but there's a chemical line on there.
And then the other comment that was made, and I think Mike Klein had mentioned it to me a while back, that
What two cities don't?
Marshfield and Faribault
Not spray.
do not spray.
And besides the spray, we use the
Outside.
chemicals that we throw in the standing water.
Into the, yeah. And we also, if we do spray, we spray in the evenings at night, you'd see the trucks coming through. So they're very conscious of when they spray and how they spray, with wind and that. So, and if somebody asks us not to spray a certain street,
Hunt, just see what happens. I know DNR says we shouldn't take a year off from the deer hunt, but it'd be interesting to see what response we get from the public if we don't spray for mosquitoes. Did it say 20 miles?
No, the mosquitoes can.
Well, the mosquitoes can.
I think it was like a mile and 1 point, Tyler, was it 1.2?
I don't remember the numbers.
It never.
Topic there regarding chemicals for things that fly. If you talk to the veterinarians in town, you'll find correctly, then some fly-by-night guys will come along with a 50-gallon tank in the back of their pickup, you know, say they can do it for half price. So.
And I don't want to put words in Tyler's mouth, but I think you're gonna have Mike Klein come and actually talk about what the process is.
Yeah, it's on our agenda for next month.
But thank you for inviting us and then actually letting us ask questions, because we violated protocol.
Any other boards, commissions? Hearing none, we'll take a break. We will start again at 7 o'clock. Thank you all.